So I'm an expressive arts-based therapist and a psychologist. And I've been practicing for, say, about 6 years now. And I've done my master's in gender, sexuality, and culture from University of Manchester. And pretty much that's about it.
So let's start with understanding the pressures of being ladylike or manlike, Navya. I mean, how would you like to define that, there could be problems lying with that entire definition of ladylike or manlike, or, or are there healthy ways of debunking these categories, I would say?
Yeah. Okay. So let's begin from the beginning. So
Yeah.
I think from the time we are born, we are given these, constructs of how a girl is supposed to be or how a boy is supposed to be, like be it
Right.
from the color selections to the kind of toys you're supposed to play with, or the kind of roles you can take, and the kind of emotions you can express. Say a girl can she be angry? Isn't she supposed to be soft spoken? Or can a boy cry? Is he strong enough if he's crying? So all of those things. And I think for us to debunk these constructs, it would be to have a more positive self-image. So once you are growing up, you tend to identify the kind of things you want to identify with.
Right.
Are there so does it doesn't have to do so much with the society then, and more with yourself and your own sense of personality and self, and what do you feel you identify with. Okay, going in circles. All right.
Yes.
So maybe, to have a positive self-image, to know what you like, to know what you do not like, to know how you're feeling in the present, to know is this me? Is this me enough? Is this not me enough? So I think once you get a positive sense of self-image and there is an awareness of identities within yourself, then you tend to break those boundaries of being ladylike or manlike, but you also tend to identify with what you want to be, or how you are, or who you are.
Lovely. I love the way you said going in circles there. It kind of echoes with me here, because it's definitely about what you feel on your own on the inside, but it is also a lot about what people make you feel like, and somewhere down the line, the entire existence gets tangled up between what people want you to,
Yeah.
what people make you feel like and what you're feeling like yourself. Uh,
Yeah.
and kind of, we're going to be keeping the discussion centered around that a lot today. And I'm certain you'll be able to, walk us through the entire maze, like I said. So moving on, we have various kinds of relationships through our life. We are daughters, wives, husbands, brothers, sons, etc. So what happens is, we've been told time and again that communication is important, right? And yet, with all kinds of technology coming in, we are talking a lot. We're talking so much more, but we are kind of communicating very little. We are, it is so uh, it is so in your hand that you feel something, you call up somebody and you immediately, kind of pass it on. But there is a process, I believe, that goes into realizing what you're feeling and communicating that. So would you help us, through that entire process of, in order to build a healthy feeling on the inside within self, and how important is that in a relationship? I mean, what if I'm a girl and I am probably very assertive, not in
Yeah.
an impolite manner, but I'm extremely assertive, and I'm not being taken in the society very well, or maybe I'm a man and I'm an emotional being and I cry.
Yeah.
I feel like crying and I cry, and I don't want to be ridiculed about that. So, is there something called healthy feeling, or communicating your feeling in a way where, acceptance will come your way if you express it that way.
Yes. Okay. So let's okay, let's focus on this idea of positive feelings. Okay, over
Right.
here, by positive, I do not mean our, generalized connotations of happiness or excitement or, feeling goody goody. It's more about the plus of feelings. So it's more like the presence of feelings. So knowing that these are the feelings that are positive or are present in me, and these are the feelings that are negative or are absent in me. So it has to do a lot with that sense of awareness of the kind of feelings I'm having, the kind of emotions I'm having, um, not only just being aware of them, but also being able to express them. So this is the way I am. I feel angry, I can cry or maybe shout or throw away things, but this is how I express my anger. Or this is how, or I can be sad by just not talking to anyone or being on my own, or you know crying, crying loudly or not crying at all without any tears. It depends on how you're expressing your emotions, and through that being aware of those emotions. So bringing it back to your question, once you become aware of those feelings, you tend to communicate that better. And since there are a lot of platforms now where we tend to communicate, we often forget to communicate what we are feeling or how we are doing in that moment, because we forget to have those conversations with ourselves. So it
Okay.
is important to know that this is how I emote, or this is how I express, and this is how I'm feeling. And then communicating that to your partner or other relations. The communication obviously takes the positive turn. So when we're talking about communication and the importance of that, so any relationship, be it with your partner or with your parents or your sibling or your friends, anyone at all, um, the basis is mostly communication. Yes, but it depends on what you are communicating. Is it Are you able to really assert yourself, or are you able to really emote yourself, or is it just on the surface, not going deep enough? And often in relationships, the problems occur when we tend to be let it be on the surface and not go deep enough, because in the end it's okay to talk, right? Going to happen. What's the worst that's going to happen? You can always talk it out.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. But as easy as it may sound, it definitely is not in practice. Like I said, that is where we are all caught out. So we had this conversation, Navya, you and me, when we were talking about the first question that we dealt with, which is defining the genders and how we are kind of brought up that way, and some of it is so. Unconscious in terms of decisions. It's in your subconscious rather, yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't know when you're doing that. So I'm a girl, let's say. I mean, hypothetical situation. I'm a girl, and I am feeling attracted to a guy, and let's say I'm not waiting for him to walk up to me. I feel empowered enough. I feel confident enough, and I walk up to him. And that's really not appreciated. 2 months later, I get to know one of my girlfriends was be saying, she's so bold, and this is not done, and this is not how a woman should behave. And if I'm a man, and let's say I do read a book, and I kind of get so emotional that I'm emotionally kind of pondering over it and hung up on that character's entire episode of going through that uh, incident in his life in the book. I'm not coming out of it very easily. Um, I'm being misunderstood, but how do I communicate that?
Okay. You have, like, we are living in a world where our identities have a lot of intersectionalities. I mean, you
Yeah.
are not just your gender, you're also your religion and your family and your, so yeah, I don't want to go into the jargon, but yes, these are some things that tend to become your identity, and so engraved in your identities or the way you look at yourself, that you tend to build your self image around that. Yeah, you tend to yeah, you tend to be like how you're expected to be than being just how you want to be, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Understood. So, moving on. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, go on. Please, Navi, please go on. Please, I'm sorry. Yeah,
No, it's okay, it's okay.
go on. You were saying something.
I missed the point. I'm sorry. It's just gone. There's so many
So yeah,
highs
it's
happening over here
we were
that I'm
talking
getting
about
this. Yeah.
yeah, communicating sometimes when you're being misunderstood. The person may be important, and you may not have kind of expected that coming your way, but it did, and yeah, all of that. So yes, definitely, we are made up of multiple kinds of cultural attributes and gender and this and that, and everything plays a part, definitely. But at this point, I would really want to dive into this really complex aspect of life called relationship. It could be a marriage, it could be a regular everyday relationship. I really want to dive into it. Kind of excites me, fascinates me a lot. There's so much that goes on in those relationships. There's very high level of intimacy, etc., and very strong bond that forms, even if it is a small span of time. So, how close is too close?
Okay. Uh, okay. So we are the millennials, right? So I feel that in today's time there is a lot of importance given to space, ownership and space, and knowing this is mine or not mine, and this is how I define myself, and this is how I want to be defined by others as well. And in relationships, often that gets lost somewhere sometimes, but it is on you and your partner or the one you want to share the relationship with, that how are you how are you able to balance that out, right? How can you um, how can you be yourself while being with that person?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So to be able to define physical space, to define your own physical as well as mental space with the person, while also being able to balance it with living and sharing a lot of aspects of your life with that person, is I think how the core of a relationship and how that can be worked. I know it's too easy said here than happening, like obviously understandable, but I think again it's important to communicate for your partner or the person you're having a relationship with to understand that how important the kind of space or the boundaries you set for yourself are to you, and how many boundaries you are allowing yourself to break or to let the other person enter.
Okay, so since you're talking about boundaries, you're talking about communicating it. Let's say person A has boundaries and it's really important, okay? And you maybe break three of them, but this fourth and fifth one is just, not happening. This is what is the us, this is what keeps you safe. This is what is important. Let's say two people have a fight, they're quarreling, and in the middle of it, one of them says, you know what? I don't think this makes sense anymore. I just want to be in my space right now, and you go into your room and maybe your partner doesn't understand that, because marriage also has an image here. You, like marriage is about two people making it work together. बात करो अभी solve करो. नहीं अभी नहीं करना मुझे.
Yeah,
you know. So how do
yeah.
you deal with a situation like that? Because this is like a recurring situation in a lot of marriages. Yeah, where
um okay, I know baat karo solve karo is something we don't want to do, but is the solution here. But also in addition to that is for the understanding to happen about the time or the pace a person needs to you know deal with something, or to be in that space to communicate or talk it out. It's really important for you, I think, in the beginning of a relationship, to set your boundaries out, to to understand and also make the other person understand the kind of boundaries you want to break or not break, and how much time or pace, or say levels do you allow that person to enter or not enter. So like, our, from popular culture, most of our ideas about relationships is कि all the time हाथ पकड़ के चलना है,
हाँ.
हक करके सोना है, एक थाली में खाना खाना है. But you have to understand that for so a lot of people, that is not how you want to be. And
Yeah.
and for to have that kind of understanding with your partner and to be able to communicate that is very important. I mean, these are some of the things that should be clear in the, I guess, of any relationship for it
Yeah.
to happen. I mean, obviously it takes time, but you but yes, you have to work it. You have, if you want to make it work, you find place, you find space, you find the work to make it work.
Okay, so there is a viewer here. The boho girl, that boho girl says it's not always possible to, set boundaries right in the beginning of a relationship because you yourself are evolving each day. I mean, that kind of rings a bell here as well. Like, you may walk into a relationship, and relationships are something that will be different with every person, even if somebody
Of
has
course.
been into multiple
Yes.
relationships. It's a different equation with different individuals. So what happens is you may think that you'll be okay with these things, and this is what you want for a perfect relationship to work for you, your perfect, I mean. And then you walk into that relationship and bam, it's not working out. That turns out to be your biggest trigger. You wanted
Yeah.
that, because you're carrying forward your experience from the last one as well, right? You thought you'd be okay about it, but you maybe not. So if you are evolving every day, how do you change those boundaries that frequently and not end up confusing the partner? अच्छा कल तो तुमने ये मांगा था, अभी आज तुमको ये चाहिए, मुझे तो समझ ही नहीं आ रहा तुम्हें चाहिए.
Yes.
And I've heard that tone in a lot of sexist jokes that float around.
Yeah, of course. Yes,
Yeah.
but also because here there are, like, so there are times when we are lacking that self awareness, when we know that our boundaries are changing, or those boundaries are evolving, or there are things that in us are evolving or changing. So again, if there is this sense of self awareness that we carry with ourselves, or we tend to communicate within ourselves, it's easier to talk it out. It's easier to explain it to the person or communicate it to the person that this is the way that I took to evolve, or this is why I'm behaving like this, or this is the reason that for me, I like this and tomorrow I don't like this, because I know that this is why this happened. So, the why is also important, because I know that this is why it happened. And if I do, then it would become easier for me to tell it to the person that this is why it happened. But again, knowing the why, this doesn't come like that. For that awareness to happen doesn't come too quickly. It also takes time for you to go into that space and to explore and understand it. That also takes a lot of work.
Okay. Now we are given the kind of households we have been brought up in, and with the kind of families that we are hoping to build. There's a lot of it. So let's say you know yourself, you know the kind of boundaries you want to set. It could be because of any given reason. It could be your job that requires you to. It could be your own mental space that's important to you to keep sane. Uh, in a lot of families and in a lot of partnerships, and I would say even the urban existence for that matter, especially with respect to women, a man may not be very accommodating to that idea of space or that style of expression. that
Mm.
you want to kind of exercise to feel relieved or connected or whatever. Let's say if you're angry and you kind of want to diffuse it by screaming, and then get back to normal the next moment, because that is what works for me. So I'll maybe do that. Or somebody wants to sit quietly because I don't want to express anything in anger and say things I don't want to say or don't mean. And maybe the woman will not get that kind of space a lot of times. How does a woman in that situation deal with
Um, okay. So, a lot of times I feel that even when you're not getting the space to share it with somebody,
it?
if you get enough space to share it with yourself, if you feel empowered enough within and aware enough within yourself, I think that in itself does a lot of it changes a lot of things in a relationship. Because when you're talking about these scenarios, a woman is often she also feels the the second one in the relationship, the one who cannot, who is not supposed to take the lead, because the sense of empowerment has been taken away from her since she was born in a lot of
Right.
cases. Because the personhood of a woman just goes away,
Yeah.
um, and she becomes more of a moreover of a like more of a wife and a daughter-in-law in that relationship than being her own self. So I feel that here, to be able to assert your own identity, to put it out there for your own sake, even if that communication is not happening with the husband. And I've seen it with a lot of clients that it changes a lot of it changes a lot of levels in the relationship, because the woman is very much aware now that who is she who is she as a person, even if not in a relationship. And to be able to tell that, or not even tell that, just be that, you know um it makes it just changes a lot of the dynamics of a relationship.
Lovely. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, you've got to know yourself better than knowing the other person to be able to connect better, yeah? Many of us are exactly empowered in the true sense of the word. Like, once we may be earning well, we may be holding very important positions, and then we get married. And the moment we get married, everything else, every kind of expectation of marriage that we have been told through our Bollywood movies and everything shifts on a man. So when I say how close is too close, when um, when a woman is tagged as a nagging wife, yes, uh, maybe the woman only cares for him, or maybe the woman has waited all day long at home. She was made to leave her job. I don't know, it could be multiple situations, or move to a different city because of the marriage, or whatever. So can there be a marriage without the woman being tagged as a nagger? That Boho girl says,
That's okay.
unfortunately, most of us are not emotionally empowered. Well, exactly my
Yeah.
point here. And Amit Singh says, rather than empowerment, revelation of thyself in a context. Well, that's a
Yeah, pretty
very,
much.
very
Yeah.
difficult thing to do.
Putting the exact thoughts in the words. Yeah, it is kind of a revelation of yourself, to really know yourself, having that
Yeah,
awareness.
yeah,
Yes, and the boho girl, I agree. I mean, I think a lot of us are not emotionally, mentally, and a lot of times, you know, socially empowered. Um, Actually, most of the time, not socially empowered, and so that is why I feel. So in therapy, this is what we do. We find reasons and things that make us feel empowered. So it could be emoting, putting your emotions out, or it could be just um, not doing anything and just being yourself for that space, not for anyone else but for your own self, just being, or just doing one thing that makes you happy or sad or angry or excited, or I don't know, the myriad of emotions that we have. So you can just be yourself and feel like that also, in a sense, makes you feel empowered, because a lot of times you just don't get that space or that that place to do that.
Yeah. You're not even feeling, you basically don't know where you are yourself. And, why are you feeling the way you're feeling? Like, let's say your husband was supposed to come at 5 o'clock, he doesn't come back till 8 o'clock, and you're constantly calling him up, calling him up, calling him up, and he comes back home and he goes, I mean, what's wrong with you, Uh,
Yeah.
and that is where the women are called as nagging partners, or then you are out of your mind by the time he gets home. I cooked dinner and I did the cleaning and I did everything on hand and I finished all of it, and I got worried because you said you will be here at 5 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock now. The man fails to understand that a lot of times in a relationship.
Yes, and I know, deviating a little from what you said, but also, like, the woman tends to forget what the man is feeling, you know, because it becomes so much about the other person, that we are putting our feelings onto the other person, that we tend to forget that that person might be feeling, might be having their own sensibilities or something.
Right.
Yeah. So okay, so for example, how I we talked about it yesterday, about how liberate you know being financially independent might be extremely liberating for a woman, but might be extremely pressurizing for a man. And over
Oh,
here, we see how a lot of social constructs come into play, how a lot of constructs of this is what this gender is prescribed to do, or these are the roles that they're supposed to follow. They come into the picture, and you tend to a lot you tend to imagine yourself within those structures and forget that, is it really how I want to be?
I can join in with you. She says, I feel a step forward from knowing oneself is for the woman to be able to articulate the crux of the matter, the core
Okay.
reason where a particular emotion is surfacing. Well, that is very evolved a thought. Yeah, very evolved a thought, and I hope all of us get there one day, men, women. Yeah, so when I'm talking about nagging, etc., let's move on to the nagging that comes from outside of the marriage. Amit Singh says it is a tussle of I and the other. Well, definitely, and where the two, I think, yeah,
Yeah, of course. I mean, that is what we've been talking about throughout.
yeah. The marriage confuses the two individuals because it's the merging of the two identities, I
Yeah,
believe.
it's not do dil ek jaan, right? They are two
Yeah.
individuals, and there is the I and there is the other, and then there is a we as well that happens in the relationship, but you should also not give away the I there.
Kind of interference in terms of in form of expectations that comes in. For instance, one thing that is bothering most of the young people in marriages today is the question of motherhood. This whole idea of
Yeah.
motherhood completes a woman. What if one feels complete without it? I mean, one may be a mother and still feel empty, and somebody may not be a mother and feel my life is doing just fine for me. I mean, how do you deal with an emotion and that relationship? And it's usually a very close relationship. It's your parents, it's your partner's parents who are expecting all of those things from you. Uh, how is it possible for an individual to work out a method to not take those expectations personally?
Okay. All right. So, a woman, especially in the Indian context, when she's born, since the time she's born, she is a daughter or sister, and then she becomes a wife, a daughter-in-law, and then a mother. So even when she's young, the kind of role she's playing in house, or those
Yeah.
kinds of games, are these relations that she take up. it's less of a police. So for a boy, it might be a firefighter or a policeman. For a girl, it might be a wife who's going to get married. You know, these are some of the things that are so engraved since childhood, that these are the kind of relations that you are. So you are a woman is she becomes more of the relations than her own self. So her personhood is often taken away from her, and it is often about the relationship she's in. So for a woman to be complete, she has to feel she's supposed to have those motherly feelings. She's supposed to be the nurturer. This is what we've been told. This is how it is. This is how women are supposed to be. And um, and um, I think a lot of people, when like in today's context, I would say, are finding ways to bring out their individuality and personhood out there, because that sense of independence, that sense of putting their self out there, putting their being independent and being on their own, has become something that has also become an identity. So she's also now a woman than just being a mother. So I think, yes, a lot of issues have been coming up lately about the clash between being wanting to be a mother and the societal pressures, and the pressures from within of being to be a mother. And I think it's important here, because since you're talking about relationships, for you to communicate this with your partner, and how you both feel that this might affect you as a person and both of you as a couple.
हाँ, लेकिन अभी मम्मी का क्या करेंगे, पिताजी का क्या करेंगे, मदर इन लॉ का क्या करेंगे, फादर इन लॉ का क्या करेंगे, बुआ जी का क्या करेंगे, चाची जी का क्या करेंगे, तुम्हारी तो शादी हो गई है, अभी तुम्हारे साथ कुछ तो दिक्कत ही चल रही होगी. So Amit Singh says that undoing the conditioning is where the secret lies. But as easy as it may sound, but I think the biggest
So
battles are at home, isn't it? So how do you not turn that relationship into a pressure, how you don't turn that relationship into a bitter end, sort of a communication that ends up building into those relationships. You start avoiding them, or you start meeting them, or you start taking their, stop taking their calls. Is there a way to diffuse these pressures and be nice and connected to these people still?
okay. So this I feel you have to balance it out. I understand it is something that is really difficult, because we are kind of in the middle of, the between both the generations, the techno and the telephone generations. I mean, if I should put it like
Yeah,
that,
definitely. Yeah.
internet generation and the landline generation. So we are literally stuck in the middle. I mean, if I would say from my personal point of view, then yes, I'm sorry, did we deviate
No,
from
we
what
did
we
not.
were saying?
Come on now, I mean, feel free to talk. I mean, I've been feeling that you've been like kind of trying to be so correct that you've been holding yourself back. Go ahead, let's have this conversation. It is so important. I mean, Boho Girl says that in-laws and parents often set up the couple for fertility checkup. Yes, they do, and
Of
it's
course, this does.
heartbreaking. I mean, I've had friends who have walked up to me and talked about how humiliating that entire process is.
Yeah. Yes.
There's nothing wrong with most of the today's generation young people, and they just maybe genuinely don't want to have children. So it does impact the people involved mentally. I mean, as much as we are talking about evolution and empowerment and this and that, how do you think a woman in this case can counsel herself, couple or no couple?
Again, I mean, I think we just keep going back to that about being self-aware and, asserting yourself. But yes, I feel, to know where you are, and if you are able to break those boundaries of relations that are attached to you, and if you are able to step out of that, beyond that, then then I don't know, it's like everything else, because log to kahenge hi, at the end the
It's
parents
the
and the
most
in-laws
thing.
and the relations, everyone is going to say, but you are at the end going to do what you want to do. And if you are aware and you can reason that out with yourself, and also because you are in a relationship, I think it is important to communicate it with the other person who is there with you in the relationship. And once that is clear in your head and you know this is what you want to do, then who
You
cares,
mean if the
really?
partner is on the same page, the world really doesn't matter. That's a
Yeah,
very,
and
very
even if,
strong
but I
message.
feel even if the partner is not there on the same page, um you to hold your ground is sometimes very important, because it is a huge responsibility, especially in the world we are living in today. And are you ready to take those responsibilities on your own or with your partner? It's very important.
ये तो
Yeah.
I think we've had this conversation पहले also, Navya.
Yeah.
Okay, I take that call and I don't have a child and everything else, but then will come the second set of judgments. You'll be left alone in your old age. There'll be nobody to support you. That's the fear aspect kicking in.
Yeah.
Then there is a लोग क्या कहेंगे, लोग कहेंगे कि मेरा बच्चा ही डिसफंक्शनल है ना, उसका रिश्ता, तुम्हारा चाचा का बच्चे को बेटा हो गया, बेटी हो गई, or whatever. So these are the kind of tactics that the parents are using. It's emotionally abusive, to be honest. I mean, and I'm not trying to put it lightly, but it is there. It is so, so real. Astha here says, how do you decide who is wrong and right in a relationship? Well, thank you, Astha. That's a very important, and we're just going to kind of come on to it. But yeah, sure. One after another. Navya, take your time. The first one is, how do you deal with the emotional blackmail? And the second one is Astha's question.
Okay, so let's talk about the responsibility that we are given or put upon, that acha, okay, this is the responsibility. So okay, so we're living in a generation that doesn't want to take, I feel that a lot of urban middle class children of this generation have not been taught to take responsibilities, because papa hai and mama is there to feed food, if we are going into the gender stereotypes. But yes, we're often not taught to take responsibilities. And when it comes to a child, it is a huge responsibility, something that we're not used to, because something that we've not experienced. I understand the emotional blackmail, and I also understand from where they are coming, okay? Because you cannot blame it on them. And also, in their sensibilities, it is practical and it is how it should be. But living in a globalized world and how we see how things are everywhere, uh, I think it becomes a sense of, to have this sense of agency, on what you want to do and how you want to do it.
Yeah,
Does that
yeah.
answer your question?
Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Second, what Astha asked also makes a lot of sense here. She
Yeah.
says in most of the couple discussions, how do you decide who's right? Because both the parties claim they are right. So
Yeah,
how do you decide that? And most of the arguments are actually centered there.
I agree. And I feel then it is not about right and wrong. I mean, it is to just let the other person know that this is how I'm feeling. I mean, probably from their perspective, that might not stand at right or at wrong. But in your sensibility, to know that this is what you feel is right or wrong, and to speak it out or communicate it to the other person, that this is how I feel, and also taking it from the other person like as is, okay, not judging on if this is not the socially acceptable thing to do, this is not the socially right thing to do or socially wrong thing to do, and in your own sensibilities, knowing that for me this is right or this is wrong, is how I think a relationship You work it out, I hope.
Beautiful. So, Asa,
Yeah.
I hope you hear that. I hope Navya is connecting to you. Sometimes it's not even about convincing the other person. Sometimes it's about being so convinced in yourself that it's not become a cause of any kind of disharmony between the two of you. You just know, and you
Yeah.
let the other person be. So yeah. So since we are talking about children, having or not having children is one kind of decisions that the young married couples are taking in today's time. It may make sense to older generations, or it may not. I mean, so Navya says that you can absolutely take your own call and stick to it. The second thing is, Navya, I don't know if it is just me or we are increasingly becoming that generation that does not look down upon old age home. We are probably one of those generations who would willingly go and admit ourselves कि भाई ठीक है मेडिकल सपोर्ट भी मिल जाएगा हमारे को अपने एज ग्रुप के लोग भी मिल जाएंगे यहाँ क्यों यंग लोगों ने जहाँ कैपिटलिस्ट एज में दो चार पैसे कमा के अपना घर बनाना उनको
हाँ, खुद अपने लिए earn करना है, not earning it for your children. I mean, yes, I agree. We are this generation, and yeah, a lot of us feel the
Yeah,
same. I
yes.
feel.
A lot of your struggle ends there. Like, don't fall into their fear tactics, guys. Like, hold your ground. If you are convinced the life is
Or
going to go
maybe it
easy,
might not be. I mean, I'm sorry, but it might be right for
yeah,
you. Maybe this is what you feel. It's extremely personal and to each its
yeah,
own.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. At 40, you feel like having a child, the medical sciences will support you, I'm certain.
Or at
So,
25. I mean, it's just
yeah,
totally
or
on you. It is,
22. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah. So, make your life the way you want it to look like. Moving on. So, let's say one has a child. And I don't want to talk about this particular topic in terms of a mother child relationship. I want to talk more in terms of family and the mother kind of a relationship. I want to touch upon the question of postpartum depression right after you've had a child, there are still a drop loads of expectations coming your way on daily basis. है ना इतने बजे सो जाना है इतने बजे ये कर लेना है ये खा लेना है I mean, how does the early signs of postpartum start showing up with respect to your communication with the family and your partner?
Okay. So I will just explain, like, with
Yes, please.
postpartum, yeah. So it is at two levels. One are the hormonal changes. So the physical changes that your body is going through, due to which there are a lot more chances or imbalances within the hormones, estrogen level, and so there's this time that they are going up, and then just after pregnancy they go down. So there are a lot of hormonal changes that are happening within you, which can lead to postpartum. And then of course the emotional the the emotional difficulties that you tend to face can also lead to postpartum. And postpartum can the depression postpartum depression can the onset can happen during pregnancy, or even like 1 year after the pregnancy, so after the birth of the child. So it can vary at a huge, so there's like a huge area where it can happen. But a lot of women face postpartum depression, just say after giving birth to 1 to 2 weeks. So this period of time, a lot of women face the kind of emotional changes. And there's another person that you have to take responsibility for. Your sleep cycle is uh, your your sleep cycle, the food cycle, your body changes. There are a lot of things that happen with you, and because of which there is an onset, or there is a stressor that leads to this kind of depression. And yeah, so okay, so being clear about postpartum and the symptoms or the onset of it, I would say that yes, family plays an extremely important role here, because not just about the kind of support they're providing, but also the kind of responsibilities they're sharing, or how again the gender roles come in about, is the father supposed to do that or not, or isn't the mother supposed to take on all these responsibility, or maybe the mother-in-law or the mother, or the females of the family. How can a man take care of a child? Although it's changing a lot in today's time because a lot of shifts are happening, but I say it is quite prevalent in the society, and it does take a toll on a woman, especially a working woman or a woman who had a sense of selfhood or personhood, because here her identity just becomes everything about the child.
Yeah.
And it's literally like this round you're revolving around. So yes, like, yes, it plays a very huge um a huge part in leading to this kind of depression.
Lovely. Navya, because this is really serious, so what happens is, in order to have kind of helping hand or an assistance in, especially in the immediately post delivery, you usually get your mother-in-law or your mother to help you. And, like I say, I mean, it's not that the mother and the mother-in-law are saying different things. It's just the way you are reacting and taking them that differs. Most of the times
Yeah.
they both come from same worldview and they say the same things. You're probably, taking for granted that your mother means well and you're not doing the same in your mother-in-law's case most of the time. Uh, Now, what I'm saying is that they both mean well. They both are trying to help you out in taking care of your child. But at the same time, both of these women, in most cases, would end up reminding you how you need to learn to do this with respect to the baby.
Yeah.
And the man has to sleep because he has to go to office, and he needs to rest. You can't disturb him. Maybe in certain cases, make the man, the son or son-in-law, whoever he is in the relationship, in a different room so that you're not disturbed. And the kind of emotion that a woman goes through while all of this is happening, and you can't in most cases express openly. Can that add to your postpartum anxiety?
Yes, of course it does. Because okay, say all right, in a relation, okay, so
Yeah, I've said a lot. That will definitely
yeah,
confuse you.
it's
So what
like
I'm
it's a lot
trying
of
to say is all the instructions that come your way, and in
yeah,
certain cases your partner is cut off from you because he's a man, he's got to look after the family.
yeah.
Does that add to the anxiety? You feel all the more lonely or whatever. I don't know. I mean, what would a person in that situation feel like, and what can the person do?
Okay. All right. So a lot of times in therapy, and this comes up a lot, I feel that, being able to express it out again becomes the channel where this kind of anxiety can be reduced, or because even though you're not able to communicate, because a lot of times the women just after childbirth is sent away, or living away from the husband, and that communication is probably not happening. But a lot of so therapy is extremely helpful here. So using arts based therapy, where we using, say, movement or expression through art or writing, or you know any form of expression, it gives you the space to be yourself, which you might find really hard, and also becomes acceptable for the family and everyone around you, because अच्छा ठीक है गाने तो सुन ही सकते हैं, या dance, मतलब, all of these things are quite acceptable in that sensibility. And then you're also able to express yourself and find that space to be yourself, which I think helps in the anxiety, and also finding that space to communicate, even if not with anyone else but with yourself. So these are some of the things that do help in postpartum anxiety, because communication with so when you are having people telling you, so it's only the people who might not be from your generation, who might not get the kind of understanding you have for some things, it becomes really difficult to explain it to them, because you don't know how they might take it, or a lot of other layers attached to it. But once you know that you are feeling like this, or being able to express that and not feel like a bad mother, and to still hold your ground as a person, as a self, then you it tends to help you better deal with it.
Beautiful. So once again, communication is the key. Getting to know yourself is the key. Uh, Moving forward, I mean, increasingly, so we also have couples around us who have had children where the mother is a better mother than the mother herself. Better in the sense that he feels like he should be there and he wants to do everything himself. So maybe feeding is the only job that the mother is given at that point. No, no, you rest, you take care. Hats off to those couples and hats off to those husbands. But sometimes, we see that the presence of an elderly adds to that kind of beautiful bond not working so well because there is also their interference. Uh, a lot of times, a lot of young couples face that because you're a woman. You need to tell. Can you talk to a woman of that age group and not confuse her? Is there a way to do that?
Yes, I keep, okay, sorry. Probably I'm speaking again from the I, and
No, no,
this is
please.
how I tend to deal with it is I communicate. I know we're just going back and back
Yeah.
to communication, but I think it is the core of any relationship. If you are clear about this is how I'm feeling and this is what I like or do, and and if you are able to express it out there, I think the understanding tends to form or create. You are not, when you are living on your own terms and not based on their expectations of you, because then you tend to be more real to yourself. The kind of conflicts that might happen will not happen within you, and once that doesn't happen, the conflict that might happen with the other person, with the person you want to communicate, will also not, because you are clear in your head and you know what you want. So yes, I think in a relationship where an elderly is present, if you are able to talk it out and make them understand, even if not make them understand, at least just go and talk it out. Um, Half of the problem just gets solved there only, because you are creating that space. Even if you're not getting it, you are able to create that space for you to have that kind of communication.
Okay, so there is another extreme of the scenario that I was presenting. Astha here would like us to focus on a scenario where what if the man thinks अभी तो बच्चा हो गया अभी तो औरतों का काम है ये लड़की का है माँ का इसमें मैं क्या ही कर सकता हूँ I mean, what can I possibly so he doesn't care. It's not that you know he's not being able to do it because he's got some reservations or he's got some problems. But he does just genuinely does not care. Okay. I don't know, not in an insensitive manner, but maybe he cannot wrap his head around it. But he doesn't care because it's a woman's business. What do you
So
do then?
okay, all right,
You're
let's just
angry.
break.
Remember, you're
Yeah,
angry. While you're communicating, you're also feeling frustrated here.
yeah, and I think I will break down on communication here a little bit, because we've been going around those questions, and I feel have you talked that to the person? Has that person told you that he doesn't care or she doesn't care, or is it what you are assuming? So okay, in a communication, when you're communicating with someone, someone silences means things as well, and some things that you assume, even if that is not said, but you feel ki acha, this is what I like and he should just do it. It's as basic as that. But have you told him to do that? I mean, how is that going to happen? You have to tell. Sometimes it's important to even tell that person that this is what I like, would you please do that, or can you do that for me? Because um, there are a lot of things unsaid which I feel that tend to make sense to you, that tends to make their own meanings to you, even if they don't hold those meanings. Yeah. So if the partner, okay, and if okay, so now this is if you have really communicated and if the person has really, does he really care or not? And then it is, what this the partner doesn't care about what you're feeling at all. um okay, so then you ask yourself that okay, why are you in this relationship? What are the things that are working for you in that relationship? What are the things that are not working for you in this relationship? Do you think that this is how do you have to work, and you and your partner here, I mean, have to work on this for it to work? Or should you not work, like, or should you just
Hello and welcome to the second round of this conversation. I'm really sorry we got carried away, we lost count of time, and the session ended abruptly, but we have been joined back by Navya. So let's carry on with our discussion from where we left off. Join me, and we'll start again. My apologies. We got so carried away into the session that we almost forgot the time is up. I'm sorry, Navya. We
no,
got
I
so
think
emotionally involved into the
it
session,
was
we lost track of
yeah,
time.
I think it was Instagram's way of telling us that it's done.
Yeah.
I should wrap it up, I guess.
Yeah. And just then, just when we were becoming like strong, empowered women, talking about, if it
Oh,
is not working out, walk out of it. Instagram said, hello, we are talking about working the relationship out here. So
yeah.
yeah, joining back for the live session. I thank you all for being patient with us. Thank you all for coming back. Uh, we are moving on to the next question here. You have already, I think, mentioned about this, Navya, in a very short format about the kind of financial independence that women are experiencing in today's time is liberating. But at the same time, for men, it becomes like a pressure. So even when a parent is looking for a match, the idea is, अच्छा मेरी बेटी तो इतना कमाती है, अभी आप इससे ज्यादा तो लेके आ जाओ, है ना,
Yeah.
उसके नीचे का लड़का हमको नहीं देखना है, या लड़की तो फिर शादी हो जाएगी, लड़का तो नौकरी नहीं मिला तो शादी कैसे होगी, हाँ, all of those pressures. Both genders are finding themselves in increasingly bigger pit of stress here, and they're trying to struggle themselves out of it, swim out of it, and not finding their way out. Please, let's talk about that a little bit here.
I think, and I think we've talked about it as well a little bit earlier, but
Yes.
yes, yes, I think this is like an extremely important example to show how the same situation, due to the gender roles that we prescribe to each individual, how the same situation might have different kind of feelings for each of them. For one, it might make them feel empowered and liberated, and for the other it might be pressurizing, because you cannot become a poet, I mean, you cannot go to drama, because you won't be able to give that kind of lifestyle to your family, because all the pressure is on you. I mean, yeah, because this is one of the most defining ways of showing how gender roles prevail, and prevail in our unconscious, subconscious, and our conscious beings. Because you because the kind of, okay, so for here, over here, both these situations can lead to, say, kind of different mental health issues. Because for one person, it the trigger might be not being able to go out and do anything at all which makes them feel independent financially, and for the other to have the pressure to not go and do what they want to do. Because I feel like there is this kind of, for the women to have the choice to do it, but can she really, or the choice to do things that might not give her the kind of money, but for the man to not do the things, you getting what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think these are the kind of pressures that just prevail and engulf the kind of identities that we are being
Yeah.
asserting.
तो
Yeah.
जहाँ एक तरफ आपको नौकरी नहीं करने दिया जा रहा है, वो आपका स्ट्रगल है ना? कि परिवार ने बोला भाई आपकी शादी हो गई, अभी हमारे पास बहुत पैसे हैं, आपको कमाने की तो क्या ही जरूरत है.
Yeah.
uh, that's one side of the story, and then there could be the other side of the story. I want to be a musician, or I don't know, uh, and I'm not being able to make it big. I want to be an artist, and maybe I'm not one of those hi-fi art selling pieces kind of an artist, but I'm not allowed to do that because I'm a man and I need to take care of the family, earn enough. Also, all of these problems, Navya, have come out more so during the times of COVID. Uh,
Yeah.
in my understanding, responsibilities are just responsibilities. They can be taken over by anything. But
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah, we do
there
tend
are
to define
struggles.
them, yeah,
Yeah, in
with
the house.
gender.
Yeah,
Of course.
there are
Yeah, we tend.
struggles in the times of COVID when two when the couple is literally locked into a household. There are a lot of issues that are coming to the front based on this entire set of responsibilities that are considered manly and then womanly, etc. Most of the struggles are coming from that.
A lot of struggles, and I think this is one of the major reasons that the struggles are happening, because these gender roles in daily lives, when a man is going out or the women is, how they're balancing out in the normal scenario before COVID, I would say, would still able to figure it out. But now when you're living together and you understand that both of you have similar kind of responsibilities, the division of those responsibilities, are they coming from the gendered understanding of it, or are you able to balance it out between yourselves? So yes, this is one another very important thing that is prevailing in today's time. And yes, again, like how we talked about responsibilities is, are we ready to take responsibilities at all? And
Yeah.
be coming into adulthood, are these the defined responsibilities? Am I able to communicate this is the kind of responsibilities I want to take? Because of course there has to be a balance that you have to maintain for things to work out. And to to balance it out equally is another thing.
Okay, one important question is, and I may be throwing you off track here, but just one question, and it's just out of curiosity. So when you are in a relationship, so what happens is you end up spending a lot of time together. And as much as we are talking about knowing ourselves, empowering ourselves, man or a woman, I mean, it goes both ways. And that can kind of help you better the communication style between two people and resolve a lot of matters for you peacefully, etc. Sometimes in a relationship, one person ends up losing himself or herself into the entire idea of life, worldview, ideology, career, etc., of the other person. How do you retain your individuality while you are in a relationship and kind of check when that is happening? Influences sometimes play a very important role in life.
Yes, of course. I mean, and we have been talking about it. I feel that to retain your sense of, selfhood, you have to know that. You have to be aware of that. You have to know these are the things that makes me me, or these are the things that I want to I want to retain about myself. And also again, the boundaries and the space comes into the picture, because you want to have these kinds. So you might have different kinds of sensibilities with different kinds of people, and you want to retain that in this set of boundaries or not. So yes, again,
I'm saying I don't know that. I don't know when I transition from being a person of myself or being the person that I am, and when I kind of merged into the identity and ideology of the other person. And one fine day I just wake up. Maybe there was a physical distance, geographical distance, mental distance.
okay,
I don't know. One fine day I wake up and I'm like, wow. What was I doing? Can I
Yeah.
stop that from happening from the beginning itself?
See,
Do
all right.
separate
So
the emotional connection from the individual that I am, the identity quest.
it's never late, right? Whatever time it happens, it happens. So I was reading this one article just a while back about how a 90-year-old woman, she, after losing her husband and after her children moving out, just one fine day realizes that she wants to become an entrepreneur and
I read
self,
this story today.
yeah,
Yes,
and self
beautiful.
burpees. And then if people feel confused, telling them then it's never late. I'm doing it at 90. You can do it whenever. So yes, just getting that awareness whenever, but just getting it is important, irrespective of whatever time is it. Because yes, again, your personhood becomes a lot about your partner sometimes, and it it could be either way, like women or men. But it is on you to know that this is who I am, and to just put it out there, and to just be whenever and however you can be.
Hmm. Because I was kind of trying to get to a question where a woman often has a bigger mental struggle, I think, because once you get married, uh, you're kind of for the first time realize what not having an agency of your own feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from there on, it never stops. It just does not stop. Like even as a daughter, you probably are told to have a career, have an opinion, learn to write, learn to dance. So it's all about skill building. But once you get married, those skills don't matter, that job does not matter, that person does not matter. It's all about you are the wife, you're the daughter-in-law, you're the mother, you're the mother-in-law, and all of those things. How did you find yourself in that kind of a circus?
Hello, I'm losing you again because
Yeah. So I'm saying
yeah.
a lot of times a woman is forced into losing herself. So it starts
Yeah.
with the marriage. Like so imagine the scenario in your head. So as a daughter,
Okay.
uh,
Okay. So okay, sorry.
irrespective of how controlling and how disciplining and strict my
But
family, I still had the freedom to look for a job and become the woman that I am.
I
And
think,
once I get married, none of that counts.
yeah, so that kind of agency that you want to hold on to of who you are, you have to, if you are aware from an early time, I think around teenage, you, in general, in teenage, an individual tends to realize that they have an agency. Okay, so it may be different for different individuals, because that is the time that you can take up your responsibilities, and you tend to realize, okay, this is the time that I have an agency. I can do things as I like. But what is the time, or what is the space uh, from the parents and yourself, that you realize that you are being who you really are? And then after marriage, even though you have found that kind of sensibility of who you are, it alters dramatically, because it's a new space that you are in, and um, it's a new person you're sharing your life. Like, it's a totally different scenario you're living. So of course, in that case, again, to just be aware of who you are, and just holding on to that, and just not living on to others expectations of you, but who you really are, and living, being true to yourself in that, in those terms, would, I think, bring back that agency, and you can hold on to that then, irrespective of whenever it comes to you.
Absolutely, yes. Growing with Baby is a listener, viewer we have here. Yes, we record all the sessions and it is put up on our IGTV page. Please go watch. And in all likelihood, we will be merging the two sessions together because today we had to break in between.
Yeah,
So
and
we'll
I,
put
yeah.
everything together for you guys. Please come and watch. Navya, moving towards the close of our kind of
Yeah, let's
conversation.
wrap it up. I think it's about time.
Yes, yes. Uh, is I don't know. We've talked about so many things, and one thing that keeps coming up is communication is the key. Communication is the key. Uh, but it's not as easy as it may sound. Or
Of course
even
it is.
knowing yourself, for that matter, is a very
Yes.
painful process, and not everybody really is given that kind of struggle to come to a point where they say, "Fine, I am not living with for anybody else anymore. I'm living
Yes.
for myself." There are a lot of women around, young girls especially, who have an ambition to marry well, and that is the only ambition they live with. And
Yeah.
even those women, 10 years, 5 years, 2 years down the line, they realize, oh shit, I wasted all my life. What do I do about it now? Are there exercises that you can do to know
Okay.
who you are? This is like a takeaway to the listeners.
Okay. So, these are things that since you're born, they're attached to you because that is what you're born to become, a wife or a mother. And this is a lot of women, especially, I think, no, not any setting, any context. A lot of women are brought up in those sensibilities that, okay, this is what you have to become or this is what you have to be. And to just okay, so there's this exercise that I do with a lot of women is speaking from the I, which a lot of us forget. So
Yeah,
I
I'm fine.
yeah, so
Yeah, I
so it is
can't.
like, actually, my mother thinks I should do this, or my husband thinks I should do this. But what do you think? Where are you in the picture? And where do you put yourself in any scenario? So there is, and it is extremely shocking when you find that a lot of people just don't know to think or know that there is this sense of this agency that they can have. You can speak for yourself. Okay, okay, how can I think, okay, how can I think about something without my family or the society being affected? But to be able to do that is important. So just speaking from the I is one of the big things that I think a lot of women should do, even man should do, because a lot of men have to face that again, because these gender roles that comes in, and then you have to see that, okay, are these the roles that I want to take up? Is this really me? What do I want? And then secondly, I feel a lot of people find it difficult to reach there, and having physical strength. So I know it might so in expressive arts, what we talk a lot about is movement based therapy. I know we're going off track, but it
No,
is
no, no,
about
we are
how.
not. We are not. Nothing here is off track. Please carry on.
Okay, so if you're being able to express something through your body, your mind tends to understand it better.
Okay.
Okay, so if I'm able to punch it out, or if I'm able to run, and if I'm able to pick something extremely heavy, or myself, if I'm able to balance myself on my own hands, there's this sense of agency, empowerment, and strength that you tend to feel about your body and yourself. So these are one of the things that I often tell people that why don't you go try this out of work, this kind of workout, or why don't you go for a run or do this kind of yoga, because these things tend to make you feel empowered by your body. And once you know that, okay, my self-worth is good, your self-image, I know I'm going into the jargon, but your self-image also tends to become positive. You tends to know that, okay, this is who I am, and these are the things I like. And then the agency or the I comes back into the picture.
Beautiful, Navya. That was amazing. I mean, that's a code word. I want everybody to understand physical workouts, physical work, whether you are running, you are doing push ups, you are lifting something heavy, whatever, helps you to create a stronger mental self image. Please remember that. So it's not only a bodily workout for a better body, but also for a better mind, for a better eye. So, like Navya is sending these two important messages to you guys. Please remember it. Firstly, your eye has to be strong. Firstly, found and then strong. And then, secondly, once you know who you are and what works for you, communicate. Please communicate. That is the key. Um, and you live one life. This is your life. You are breathing, you are eating, you are sleeping. Everything is you, and so should be the relationship at some point. So thank you so much, Navya, for these
Thank you so
beautiful
much.
messages.
Okay.
Also,
So much
you
for having me.
please,
Yes.
please say that you went off line for a bit.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. It was a beautiful session, Navya. We were absolutely elated to connect with you, and this was an experience. This conversation was more like sitting across the table and discussing
Yeah,
my
and we
problems.
really didn't realize we've passed an hour and a half doing it. But yes,
Definitely, yes.
really nice.
So over to you guys. Keep smiling. And if you can't smile, we are there. Connect to us and we'll help you smile. We've got people like Navya here to help us out.
Or
Till
cry
then,
or shout or do anything. Just feel.
just
Yeah.
feel. Have fun. Keep smiling. Laugh bright and shiny. And if you can't, get in touch with us till we meet again. Take care, guys.
Bye.